All right, then. Welcome, everybody. This is a What's Up For You call, and it is December 12th, 2023, so 12/12, yay. So before we kind of launch into the questions and that kind of thing today, I'd really like to just kind of point out that, we're in this last how do I want to say this? We're in this last shift and reorientation between now and the end of the year. Actually, we've been in it since about October. And many of you have heard me say before that those last 3 months of any year are kind of a reorientation. This is that on steroids is what it feels like to me this year. So just being as gentle and as kind as we can with ourselves, and also as much as we can feel what is being felt in any given moment versus trying to figure it out. That, if you've listened to me talk at all, you know that I'm big on moving right into felt perception and being aware of what that feeling state is. I think it's really important right now because so much of the information that's coming up and moving out is just that. It's coming up and it's moving out. It's not designed to be analyzed. It's not designed to throw us back into some past history or trajectory. It really is designed to just come up and move through. And to the degree that we're actually allowing that to happen, we'll find that we'll move through this and into January, 2024 with a lot more ease than you might expect. So, yeah. All right. So where are we going today, Sharon?
All right, this first question is, my son gets affected by his friends struggling with dysregulation in his classroom. He says it reminds him of his past life memories, similar struggles in school, etc., and also painful to watch his friends suffer. How can he learn to manage this? He cries and bites when that happens. He is 12.
Let me see here. Hold on just a second. There's something else happening today, so I need to let that settle in first. So give me just a second here. It's almost like the answer that I would have given you even a week ago. It feels like it's going to be different. So give me just a minute to let that settle. Okay, so two things are showing up here. On the one hand, we can say that have conversations with him, literally have conversations with him about the fact that, about all of it, about the fact that he is picking up other people's information, that's actually a gift and a capacity, that that it makes him feel uncomfortable, and then that might be heavy for him, but that he is, the way he's showing it to me, he's bigger than those, experiences, and he's more expansive than those experiences. So just giving him right now, just giving him it's almost like permission or the okay to expand beyond that condition, expand beyond that space, will actually allow him to hold his friends and those around him in a space of love. He is that. He is that. He's been conditioned a little bit by being here into believing that he's small and that energy or that emotion is big. And it's just simply not true. He's vast, he's big, and that energy and that emotion is smaller than he is, right? The other side of that coin is, please make sure that we check in, or that you check in with yourself regarding how that is making you feel. Again, just like when I was saying at the beginning of this call, felt perception is really, really important. So let's say we see our children, suffering or feeling uncomfortable because they're picking up all of this emotion. Typically, we have a tendency to try to fix that for them, or how do we make that okay for them? First things first, let's go back into ourselves and how is that making us feel? What are we noticing? What does that remind us of? Were we overwhelmed by other people's emotions when we were younger? Let's really tune into that part of things, because we as the adults in these kids' environments are an energetic template or a vibrational template for them. So they will handle situations out in the world very much the way we perceive those situations, or we handle them. And we can change the way we handle things very quickly right now by moving right into that felt perception of that experience and just noticing what it is for us, and then watch how it can shift for them. Yeah. I hope that's helpful.
All right, this question is, I believe my life's journey includes helping heal some deep ancestral limiting belief patterns, and I am wondering if you can provide any guidance, insight as to the various ways this shows up in my body, especially regarding my ears and the right side of my body, and also guidance around energy night sweats.
Right. Okay. Let me tune in here. So first, let's normalize a lot of this. Let's neutralize some of these experiences, because our bodies, again, are releasing everything they can release in order to move into the next iteration of our own evolution. So our bodies are doing something, quote unquote, right, not something wrong, as they go through night sweats, or they go through some pain and discomfort on one side. Very, very often, one side of the body will be locked up over another side. Very often that can be the right side. That masculine kind of energy that we've all kind of had to adopt. And I'm not bashing masculine energy. What I'm saying is that we've all been conditioned to a certain degree to do, to make something happen, to force, to push. And we can't do it anymore. We can't do it anymore. We're moving into a state of being, acknowledging who we are in that state of being, and functioning from there. And so all these things that are playing out in our lives as far as physical discomforts, again, I'll take us right back to felt perception, because there's nothing in our physical, mental, or emotional experience that is not vibrational, right? It's all vibration. And so by the time we know this, by the time it gets locked into the body in one way or another, it can create all kinds of issues, you might say. But again, before we take any action to do anything about that issue, can we sit with it and be with it and acknowledge that it's there, allow it to be there, thank it for being there? Yep. And another really good question is, again, what does that remind us of? What I know that I had right shoulder stuff for a really long time, like frozen shoulder, for probably like 2 years. And sitting with it, and it was irritating, it was frustrating, it was limiting my mobility, it was cramping my style, to say the least. And again, as we move into it, as I moved into that energy, what I was noticing is the feeling that I had around it was just frustration. It was like I was really frustrated. And so started asking myself some questions. What aspects of myself am I frustrated with? What am I shouldering maybe that I don't need to be shouldering? And it's creating a frustration in my experience. So those kinds of inquiries right now are really powerful. They're really important. And I think you'll be amazed at just how easily things can shift because we just ask questions instead of make statements. When we say, oh my gosh, right side of my body's locked up, that's because of this. You've just frozen it more in time, right? So inquiry, questions, much better than statements. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Happy 12/12. My daughter is still having behavioral issues only at her day program. Can you provide any specifics as to how we can assist and support her?
Yeah. So, we all go into a million different environments, every day. We're in several different experiences every day. And some environments vibrationally will be very, very supportive. Other environments, not so much. And for a lot of kids, and a lot of kids who are extremely sensitive, they might get very used to being at home and being in the vibrational space that you provide, even if that vibrational space is challenging both for you and for them. They still kind of know the general dynamics, and so they know what works and what doesn't work to a lesser or greater degree in that environment. When they're in an environment where there's more people and where those people are impacted by other people. So let's say, you go to a day program and there's all of the individuals that are participating in that day program, but then there's also all the vibrational information that's coming in with those individuals because they've come from other settings, right? So the kids are picking that up. So again, first, let's appreciate the fact that these kids are so tuned in that they know the feeling state of just about everybody in an environment. And not only do they know that feeling state, they know the feeling state of those that they came from. Right? So first, let's just say, wow, it's like you have this great capacity to pick up all kinds of different information. And just because you pick it up, love, does not mean that you have to take it on, does not mean that you have to embody that. It's okay to witness something without actually taking it into your field. Yeah. And it seems too simple. When I say those words, it's like, I know some of you are going to go, yeah, but I'm not sure he or she understands, or I'm not sure that, try it. Try saying it just that clearly to your children or those that you serve and see what happens. Because the fact is that words carry consciousness. And when you speak to them from a place of clarity in what they are actually doing, clarity in their capacity, I promise you that their consciousness picks that up. Whether they understand every word, every nuance or not, that's another story, right? That's not, but their consciousness is exactly what picks up that information, and they'll let you know that they got the message. Yeah. We just want to speak to capacity instead of to some kind of, instead of to their disorder or perceived disorder or their challenges. Yeah, those kinds of things. Yeah.
This question is, I listened to Monday's recording this morning where the Earth Star and the Soul Star meet in the heart to unify our personal song. Since then, I've experienced a series of tremors in my neck, bobbing my head. My fifth chakra has been seriously blocked. I'm thinking the tremors signify an opening and energy making its way through. No fear. Is this what you feel is happening?
100%. Yeah, that's right on. So again, just like I said, the body is releasing as much as the body can at this point, because at the end of the day, we are completely transforming our neurology, our biology, and our psychology so that we, you might say, express from who we are in truth instead of expressing from the identities that we've created over multiple lifetimes. So you can imagine that there are going to be places and spaces within our energetic fields that are going to be a little bit more locked up than others. Again, no blame, no shame. That's just the way it is. That's where we've gotten yeah, that's where that information has taken hold, you might say. So yeah, I would just keep running that energy. For those of you that weren't on that call or are not in the New World Portal, one of the things that has been happening now is, we were talking about the fact that the soul star and the information that the soul star holds about who we are in truth, and the earth star, our connection here, it's same star, same information, right? It's just that those two, the earth star, you might say, has been a little bit more maybe disconnected for most people because we've had one incarnation after another. So in that New World Portal, what we were doing is we were funneling or drawing down information from the soul star and defying gravity, you might say, and lifting that energy up from the earth star so it met in the heart. So again, it's like we could say where two or more are gathered, right? There's an explosion, there's an exponential expression of who we are in truth. So running that energy top into the heart, bottom into the heart, is a really good exercise for right now. So yeah, keep going, because it's just it'll just open those floodgates. Yeah, wait till you feel what comes out of the heart once those are all fluid and open. So yeah, pretty amazing.
All right. I have a speller who recently spelled that he sees spirits and he's been injurious to his mom. Not sure if the two are related. Any advice?
The no. In this case, no. The two aren't necessarily related in the way you might think that they're related. So a lot of this population, obviously, they see into different realms, into different realities. What they see in those other realms and realities is everything from angelic galactic support to you might say, the coagulation of the collective emotional field, which can be a little mucky sometimes, to say the least, right? So the kids can see all kinds of things. In this case, what this individual is seeing is actually something that is fairly supportive to him, and so that's that piece is and he goes to that energy quite frequently, you might say. I think on the other side of it, there's a little bit of fear, anxiety, stress, on the yeah, I mean, as how do I want to hold on a second. Kaya ka no mo anta te yung sandare kai ko inja. Yakikiro ko naman din atiri kyo ko kay gira sam tatikyo kay kisi. So again, depending on what our earlier programming is, we will see the world through that lens. We will absolutely see our children through that lens. So let's say a child is seeing something and or is interacting with something that is unseen to the parents. If the parent has a fear or an anxiety or a stress around that, very often we can project onto the child that what they're seeing is quote unquote bad. And it's not necessarily bad for them. Yep. So again, this is one of the reasons why we want to kind of, we just want to check ourselves as often as possible, because, and especially where there are children who are aggressive or showing that kind of energy, a lot of times, you know, it does behoove us to look and say just simple things. Where are we being aggressive to ourselves? Yep. Where are we a little harder on ourselves than we probably should be? Where might there be aggression, you know, maybe even further back in the lineage somewhere? Where is, we just again, and again, it's not to blame or shame. It's not to create any form of self-doubt or anything like that. It literally is to just bring that information inward and ask those kinds of questions, because very often, I mean, most of us go through life and we can be pretty hard on ourselves. You know, it's like we think we're supposed to have this all figured out yesterday. And quite frankly, you know, when you have children who are energetically sensitive, nobody gives us the book on how to raise kids in general. And then you put vibrational children, vibrational beings on top of that. And it's challenging, you know, it's challenging. So we're not here to beat ourselves up. We're here to be as kind to ourselves and as gentle to ourselves as possible. And what I will say is I see an awful lot of kids who do have some kind of more aggressive kinds of tendencies. When I ask parents or professionals that kind of question, very often they'll like, oh yeah, I've just been beating myself up. You know, I literally been beating myself up about this whole thing. So that's where I would place that inquiry and see what plays out. It's already shifting. I can feel it for you. It's just hearing those words and having it not be a blame shame game, but just an awareness game. I can feel it. It's already starting to shift out. So yeah, we'll let that keep going.
All right. My 8-year-old grandson has many allergies and bowel issues. He gets teased at school at times and is very hard on himself and makes negative comments about who he is. My daughter is exploring medical reasons behind the bowel issues, but I suspect it is emotional, energetic. Can you shed some insight?
The very first thing that he says is, how it's like all about digesting being here, digesting being in this environment, in this vibrational space. And that the question for him is, how do I digest that? You know, and again, how do any of us digest that? You know, it's especially, I could look at every one of you and say we're all highly energetically sensitive, you know, to one degree or another. And so we've all probably had that challenge of digesting our life experiences. And especially when those life experiences are not as kind or as loving as this kid is. I mean, he's Yeah, what a sweetheart. So just again, this loving, kind energy. And one of the things that I would say directly to him, because I think he's beginning to wonder if it's safe to be loving and kind, to be the kind of soul that he is here. And so I think the more that we can encourage him that, you know, just because other people can be cruel, just because other people can be in their separation energy doesn't mean that he has to. I would really praise his kindness, his sensitivity. I would suggest to him that we need people like him in the world. Yep, we need people like him in the world right now. And he's I can feel this in my heart. Hold on a second. What he says is, it's almost like if he knew what to do to help, those that were not kind, he would feel a lot better. And so that's kind of his dilemma. What we want him to know that is that him being kind, even when others are unkind, and I know that's a tall order for somebody of his age, but him being kind when others are unkind is actually him demonstrating and showing them what's possible. And as he shows them what's possible, it's then easier for him to digest that situation. Again, he's put in his power instead of his disempowerment. Most of us, especially because we've been so conditioned to linear time, we look through the lens of, okay, this is going wrong, this isn't working, this needs to be fixed, right? That's kind of the scenario that linear experience, you might say, has taught us. We had an experience before, we didn't like that, we don't want it to happen again, so we go into all of this fixing mode in order to make it not happen again. We can shift that a little bit more into more of a, I'll say, more of a spherical kind of consciousness, where we start considering that our great capacity and our challenges are usually very closely intertwined. Yep. It's like I can say that I wouldn't have the opportunity to sit here and talk to all of you today if I hadn't had some of the, deep challenges that I had in my youth, right? So the two, and so all I'm saying here is let's really speak to him about his capacity. And at first he might say, oh yeah, but they won't get it, or they don't understand, or yes, that's all true. They probably won't get it initially. And that doesn't mean that you're not still loving kindness. That doesn't mean that you still don't have a capacity that you have. So again, we're moving this into capacity in every way, shape, and form. And interestingly enough, that he can digest. his capacity, he can digest that. That makes sense to him once he really hears that. So yeah, I would start there.
If there is one book you recommend, will you read before the end of the year to start the new year with energy and strength, what would that be? Thank you.
I'm sure there's a few people on this call that know exactly what I'm going to say because I've said it so many times. The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Yeah, by bar none. And I say that because, again, it's all about that inner work. It's all about felt perception. And what I love, love, love about this book is it does not leave you reliant on somebody else to fix, right? It doesn't, it really does bring you to a place where you recognize and realize within yourself that no matter what arises, you will actually have the tools to meet what arises. And the more you meet it, and the more you know you have the capacity to meet it, the more other capacities start flooding in. Yeah. So yeah, Presence Process by Michael Brown on Audible and in book form. Yeah. Yeah, that's my spiel for them.
I'm experiencing paralysis on the right side of my face, which is affecting my right eye and vision. Is there an awareness my body or my life is trying to express to me with this physical expression? Thank you.
What I'm hearing, like loud and clear, is again, we can no longer face the future. We can no longer face the future or move into the future in the ways that we used to do things. So so hold on a second. Yeah, it's interesting with you. You're ready for a new path in some ways. You're ready for I'll say like a new way of being. Um, and so it's almost like that whole the way you see the world, the way you were conditioned to see the world through that right eye, the way you faced the world, literally, let's take it literally, the way you face the world. It's like both of those are paralyzed, right? And they're not paralyzed because they're broken. They're paralyzed because it's almost like going, you're not taking one step further in that direction, in that way. Yep, it's like what you're really asking for is a shift of perception. You're asking for you're asking to see the world and to see yourself through a different lens. I would say whatever you want to call your highest timeline, your source self, please, please, please keep calling that in, keep calling it in, keep calling it in, because whatever this new trajectory is for you, let's say I don't think you can see it coming. It's like, I don't think you can see exactly what that might look like. You'll love it. You'll appreciate it. The whole experience will have more value to you than you might have experienced, in the past, even though you've valued you up till now. It just feels like, yeah, that's what I would ask for. Your highest timeline to see your next steps, to see yourself as you have always been meant to be seen. Yeah, that's what's showing up. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. Enjoy. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting.
All right. My son is in a very dark emotional place right now, and I am doing everything I am intuiting to do to support him to return to love. Any recommendations that I can be doing on his behalf with and for his energy? He is 32 years old.
He's hold on a second. I want to make sure that I mentioned Jinju Sunday. What I'm hearing is he's allowed to feel dark. for anybody who's watching somebody feel dark, it's scary. It can also be scary for the person who's feeling dark. But one of the capacities here that he has is it's almost like if he's allowed to go into the shadow and he knows that he is, if the people around him are telling him and supporting him by saying things like, you are quite capable of going into the shadow. That's one of your strengths. You're quite capable of noticing what you notice while you're there. You're powerful in that space. The more we share that kind of information with him, the more he addresses whatever he is attempting to address. I think more for the collective, honestly, than personally, but nevertheless, the more he recognizes and realizes that, again, that's a capacity. And he'll, the way he shows me like this, like he goes in, cleans something up, and it's like done and dusted, it's like, okay, and then comes back out. What ends up happening is, because none of us want to see our children in dark places, again, we try to prevent them from being in those dark places. But quite frankly, that's exactly what happened to most of us too. We were allowed to feel some feelings, and we weren't allowed to feel other feelings. And some of those more shadowy feelings, or those darker ones, it's like, yeah, our parents before us didn't want us to go there because it brought up something for them. And us as parents don't want to see that in their kids for the same reason. But again, if we can acknowledge that just because it's a dark place doesn't mean it's a bad place. Yeah. And the capacity, I mean, honestly, if all of us could go into a dark place and be with it fully, that dark place would neutralize in a nanosecond. Because what part of us can meet, the part of us that can meet that dark place, you might say is the light. You might say is the lighter aspect of ourselves. So the more we can not add energy to it being dark, and dark equals bad, and bad equals overwhelm, and overwhelm equals you'll never get out of it. You see what I'm saying? It's like, as that energy gets layered upon, it makes it harder and harder for that individual to kind of step out of it. Whereas we kind of go, wow, yep, you're in a really shadowy, dark place. And by the way, do you know that you wouldn't have even gone there unless you had the capacity to meet it? Wonder what that's like for you. I wonder what part of you is actually able to be in that space. Yeah. And what can that part of you do in that space? Right? Empowerment. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the kids, I will say right now, especially no matter whether they're, 30s kids or, 10-year-olds, a lot of the kids are, and have been since they started coming in mass, they have been clearing up the collective emotional body. And like I say, that collective emotional body has been pretty deeply steeped in separation. And again, if we add separation to that energy, then it makes it that much more challenging for them. Whereas if we acknowledge, wow, that's one of your capacities, yep, then then we get to deal with what comes up for us in that, and offer them a mirror for their empowerment. Yeah. Support them in that. Yeah.
Dear Suzy and Sharon, I am female, have a non-romantic relationship with a specific male. My intent was an equal creative collaboration, but I sense he is attempting to dominate the energy. I don't think this is personal, but I feel some disappointment as I see a greater potential, whereas this seems to fall into an old pattern. I am feeling now that I need to move away from that relationship. Could you give any can you give any clarify on the energetics in terms of my own part? Thank you.
So every experience that we have, serves one of two purposes. Yeah. Both for the same purpose, you might say, but one of two purposes. That energy or that experience will either show us what is unintegrated within us or what is integrated within us. Yep. And both are working towards the same end, which is to have us recognize and realize who we are in truth. So you said an interesting word in your description there. You used the word, you said, I'm a bit disappointed. Yep. And so again, that energy of disappointment is an energy that is, and we can all understand, I can understand that one just this morning. We can all understand that energy. So that energy of disappointment is maybe a recurring theme. Yep. And especially a recurring theme when it comes to love, when it comes to intimacy, you might say. And so one of the things that I would really pay attention to before you make any decision about staying or going is, again, you've already identified it as disappointment. What does that disappointment remind you of? Where have you been disappointed in the past around relationship? Yep. Is there any information there that's still lingering that wants you to love it? Yep. And the other question that I would ask here too is intimacy. Look into me and see, right? Intimacy. So how is it that maybe the opportunity here is to look inward and to kind of go, okay, where am I giving myself love? Where am I connected to myself? Where am I in intimacy with myself? Yep. And where am I, and where am I not? Yeah. Right there, right there. Your heart just shifted. Yep. Yep. So the outer landscape and the people in it will come in over and over again, and they will push the same button, and as they push that same button, again, they're not pushing that same button to say, oh, there's something quote unquote wrong with us. We're not able to, we have intimacy issues or none of that. It's not that. That information is showing up in the outer landscape so that we can meet those parts of ourselves that require looking into ourselves and seeing intimacy, right? There we go, right there, right there, right there. So there's all this. It's so interesting watching what's happening now, just having this conversation, because your heart's shifting, your heart's opening. There's also this place that I refer to as the space in between the heart and the solar plexus. And that space in between, for me, typically denotes our multidimensional selves, the reality of ourselves through multiple realms, through multiple realities. Very often when the heart is holding a particular pattern, right? We also will lock down that multidimensional reality of ourselves to one degree or another. And therefore we don't get to see how big and vast we actually are. So right now, just as we're having this conversation, it's almost like there's like a plug or a filter that was on that space in between that's lifting off, and the heart's just relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. So again, when that energy of disappointment comes up, track it through not just this relationship, but track it through other kinds of experiences in your life. See the way it shows up. And again, when it shows up, it's almost like you're just saying to yourself, you know, like, I'm with you. It's like, I've got you. I'm here with you. I'm loving you. I'm supporting you. It's like you're saying that to you. You're saying that to yourself. Yeah. There we go. There we go. And the more you're supporting yourself in that way, the more this whole heart space in between solar plexus energy just starts opening up. And when that opens up, one of two things happens. Either that individual shifts and shows you a different kind of mirror, or your partner shows you a different mirror, or you make the decision that, you know, you're looking for something else altogether. And either one is a-okay, because what you're getting out of this experience is really moving beyond being disappointed. Yeah. 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 I'm going to look at this one today too. It's like, I can feel it in my heart and in my solar plexus. So, all right.
Our child is going through severe acid reflux and mouth ulcers ever since we moved to a new state. We have done intensive GI work and everything looks normal. His diet is clean, balanced, and healthy. Strong prescription drug is the only thing that temporarily calms his stomach. What message is this flaring gut telling us, and how can I help him heal?
Can I ask what the state is? That sounds like a weird question, but where are you living now? Or when did this start?
Florida.
Florida, okay. Hmm. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is a little bit about, this is somewhat similar to the other one that we had around digestion. It's like, in this case, digesting new experience, digesting hold on a second. I don't know what this is about, I'll be honest. I'll just say what I hear is, I'm attempting to digest a reality that burns, right? I'm attempting to digest a reality that is heated. Yeah. And so whatever that might mean, I don't something about the shift or the move or the reorientation, whether that brought up heat Yep. Within the family dynamics, or whether that is the physical heat of moving from one climate to another. It's almost like all I keep hearing him say is that he's trying to digest the heat. So again, that the Kekokama, the OSM, and that heat is kind of like a little bit like a furnace in his gut. And because it's a furnace in his gut, he has to release that heat sometimes, so it comes back up and out. So the first, the acid reflux, you might say, is it's releasing that heat. So we're not going to make that wrong. It's doing its job. And the other thing that I would just ask is, any kind of relocation or reorientation or new reality, that can be challenging for any of us. And so I would pay attention to, again, what showed up during that process. Does everybody else in the household enjoy this new climate, or is there heat around that? Again, inquiry around that, I think, would be really helpful. Hold on a second. He's just whatever this dynamic is, it just feels like there is angst, discomfort, heat. He just keeps pointing me back to heat. And he's, whatever the heat is and whatever that means to you all, and especially to the, I would say, to the other people in his environment, I would just ask that question. And as you just know what that is, or even just acknowledge, it's nothing to be fixed. It's just something to be aware of and to be acknowledged. It's then he's like, oh, okay, I can digest this new space. I can digest this experience. Yeah, it's hard for everybody to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to do last words or one more question?
Let's do one more. Yeah.
Okay. My question would be, lately I feel so hurt, like not being in sync at all with life and friends, a huge feeling of sadness. This is triggered by losses or if they are not at ease. But why is this so overwhelming right now?
Right. Well, because you're transforming, because you're resetting, again, neurologically, biologically, psychologically, and very often when we are doing a reset of that magnitude, you might say, we need to separate out from what has been known. Yeah. So again, the universe's source, whatever you want to call the bigger picture, it's working for us. Yeah, not against us. And grieve, please grieve. You are releasing what no longer serves you. You might say you're releasing what, and I'm not talking about people, or I'm not talking about this from that vantage point, but what was before is now, you might say, too small or not a vibrational match for who you are becoming, or the capacity that you have to become what you've always been. And so you're being isolated, you might say, or separated out. One, so you can grieve the loss of the old, and I would, and 2, so that you can reset for what wants to come to you next. And what I will say is 2024 is a very, very interesting year. It's a year of new potentials and new possibilities. It's a year of us landing within ourselves in ways that we might not have ever been able to land. It's a year of being able to be with parts of ourselves that we have hidden from, you might say, or moved away from for eons. So feel what you need to feel. You're not less than by feeling deeply that loss, because that's exactly what it is. It's also a loss that is going to, in retrospect, be very appreciated. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
All right, we'll stop there and go ahead and give your last words.
All right. Last words. Well, I think that little spiel on 2024 probably was some of that. You know, I can just tell you in my own experience right now, I can really relate to so many of the questions and the comments that you all made today. And I think the biggest thing for myself to recognize and realize, and for maybe to put forth to each and every one of us, is that, you know, we are all that is, ever has been, ever will be. We're all of it. And so equally important is that grieving process, let's say. You know, it's equal to our creativity or to our capacity. Yeah. And so one of my current mantras is, you know, just be with what is. Yeah, just be with what is, because it's all part of the whole. It's all part of what we are in truth. It's all leading us to exactly what is, you might say, it's all leading us through exactly what is required as we step into bigger and bigger versions of ourselves. The fact that we're going to step into bigger and bigger versions of ourselves, that's a non-negotiable. That's just going to happen. It's where what the energetics of what's going on right now is massive. It's that energy is far beyond our little human desires to stay small, right? We're just not going to be able to do it. So the best thing to do is to be as loving and kind and compassionate to these moments that we find ourselves in as possible, and knowing that the further we get, 2024 will ease up, 2025 more so, 2026, you know, it's like we're kind of at this pivot point right now where it's time for everything to ease up, and it's also time for us to recognize who we are in truth, so that we can help it ease up, not just for ourselves, but for the collective. Yeah. Sound good? Okay. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Thank you so much for making it today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.